So calling a meeting to order at 1:01. I'll read the announcement. As a preliminary matter, this is Mickey Rowland, Chair of the HSAB. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. When I call your name, respond in the affirmative. Brooke?
Yes.
Lucy?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Angus, you there?
Here, I'm just eating.
Okay, thank you. And staff, Holly?
Present.
And no speakers are anticipated. This is this open meeting of the Historic Structures Advisory Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. For this meeting, HSAB is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join in. Participants may find information on the conduct of this meeting at that location. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Okay. Adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Yes.
Lucy.
Second.
Motion Brooke seconded. All those in favor? Lucy. Brooke,
Aye.
Jason. Angus.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm in favor. So we can move on to the first agenda item, which is 10 Easy Street. So window changes. Steve, I see you're here.
Hi, I'm Mickey. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. So these are window changes for 10 Easy Street for the Deb Killen. And the last time we submitted, we went with the clear window, which didn't really look that great, to be honest with you. Deb had wanted a request for it, but it ended up being too horizontal in its reading. So what we did is we put in the center rail mutton like that, and now it reads more vertically. It is the same exact window configuration, size, and design that's on the Lilly Pulitzer, right across on the end of Main Street. And I've provided you with all the information and a complete window survey of the downtown area, showing, you know, there it is in the 1940s. The windows, and then let's go back, Holly, for 1 second. You can see on the right-hand side, the building that no longer exists, that was demolished, had quite the fenestration on the second floor. But just for general knowledge, we included a full window survey of some of the downtown area buildings, so that you could see that what we're doing here is now with that center mullion, keeping more in the feel for storefront windows, this is now becoming no longer a real estate agent, but a commercial storefront.
Okay. That was helpful. I scanned through all those storefront pictures. That was good. Thanks.
And there's a similar one there.
Yep. Yep. You want to? Luce, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I do. I do really appreciate this survey of the windows, and looking at it, I would be happier with something like Maury's, the looms, where you have a number of large panes. The Brock building, something like that. I visually dividing the larger section of the bottom portion of the windows in half, I find a little jarring. But I think that doing larger panes throughout for the whole expanse, I would find more attractive.
Okay. Thank you. Brooke, anything else? Anybody else? Can you all hear me well enough?
I can hear you, but I didn't hear anything from Brooke. Is he muted?
Okay.
I think he's frozen.
He looks frozen.
He looks frozen.
He's in the basement.
Let's come back to Brooke. Angus?
So Steve, it is beneficial to see all the examples throughout town and the different situations with gable forward and with the eave forward and all the different versions. There's no way getting around something that looks like a 5-bay, Nantucket house, then getting these huge picture windows in it. Even though the windows themselves, the design that you've put is, it's ubiquitous. It's just a little bit of a pill to swallow with this particular facade. But I mean, in relation to the other examples, you see this in a lot of places. So I guess if there were going to be a picture window, I don't really have an issue with it. It's my issue is more with the idea of a picture window at all.
Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying, Angus, is in almost all of these other facades, it's literally corner to corner. It's very rarely, I see one spot on Federal Street where there are picture windows within a shingled wall, but that's sort of a rare way of handling it. I'm not suggesting we go corner to corner here by any means, but it just is going to look a little different than what we're seeing in these pictures. I was going to suggest, and I like Lucy's suggestion of the, maybe larger but more fully divided sash. Another suggestion I was going to throw out was kind of like what you did there, Steve, where you divided the sash with a mutton with a mutton. I was going to suggest that maybe you take the individual big sash and turn it into 2 sash with a mullion, and that'll give.
Mickey, I'm sorry, you lost me for a second.
Okay. Instead of having a single thin mutton dividing the window vertically.
Yep.
Separate the sash into 2 sash with a mullion, so that it's 2 individual sash, and then the orientation is a much more confirmed vertical alignment to the sash.
I understand now. Thank you.
Now, if we take that one step further with Lucy's thought, you could divide that into 12 or 9 lights or something to that effect, and still have large glass. That's about as far as I've got. Any other thoughts on that? Ford, Brooke, you back? I don't see Brooke. Jason?
I think that's a
There you
good
are.
idea, Mickey. That would be, I think, a lot easier pill to swallow if it's just more of the same. If you just so you end up with a whole bunch of glass, but maybe like a repeat of what's above the right side of the door, 3 mold 12/12s, where it's all glass. You can clearly see inside, but it's not a big sheet of glass in this particular facade.
Yeah, now how many, if they divide it up into 12/12, if that small, I suspect they're probably trying to get a little away from the tiny panes, but if you could just come up with, some other alternatives. Jason, do you want to add to this?
Not really. I'm not really in favor of it at all, but if it had to happen, I would be more inclined to go along the lines of what Lucy said, such as Mitchell's is a good example, or even looms.
Steve, what do you think about that?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and make some changes to it, and we could present that alternate to the board at the next meeting. This will come up before you guys can get another look at it, unfortunately, I think. But I can go ahead and make some revision changes here and show some more options on it. I've got no problem going more the looms look and, you know, maybe having a, like you said, a harder center divider between those two units.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Yeah, the
All right.
Brock building.
Any other comments from board
Well,
members?
I was going to say the Brock building from the photograph you have. I think that's a good look too.
okay.
And it may even be more stable with the heavy winds in the winter.
Yeah, that really won't make a difference because it all has to be tempered glass anyways, because it's a storefront. But I appreciate your time today and your suggestions, and we'll make some alternative changes.
Okay,
Okay,
great. Thanks, Steve.
thanks, guys.
All right, moving on to 38. Oh, Brooks up and he's having Comcast issues. Let's skip Brooks 38R prospect for now, and hopefully he can join us later at the end of the meeting or later on. So that moves us down to 3 School Street. I see Flavin and Mr. Russell in the crowd. I'm in a not so good internet site, so if for some reason you guys think that my internet is cut out, try to let me know. Otherwise, I can't tell if you're hearing me or not.
It's having a hard time loading up. Sorry, guys.
Okay, so this is 3 School Street. Is there a representative out there that would like to speak to this one? Okay, hearing none. Are you all hearing me?
Yes,
Okay,
I hear
not getting
you.
a response.
Are you able to hear me? Mickey, this is
Yes,
Gordon.
who is that?
This is the
Ah.
homeowner, Gordon Russell. I thought that
Yeah.
Colin Flavin was going to be on the call, but I guess maybe he's not, or not hearing
Yeah.
him.
I'm here, Gordon. Can you hear me okay?
There you are. Yeah. Why don't you take it away?
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Well, thanks for hearing this again. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So starting at the picture on the screen right now, the School Street elevation, we have proposed removing the roof walk as recommended by HSAB. And if we can
Great.
scroll down a little bit, please. There we go. There, exactly where the cursor is located. And Nathan, you can jump in. We've kind of changed the proportion of that window to be more in alignment with the older section of the house on School Street.
Yeah, this is Nathan Lynch, also from Flavin Architects. That window is now skinnied up and the proportions match the existing window that is in that exact location.
Good.
Okay. Here we're indicating that the elevator enclosure, if you will, it has been removed in its entirety from in the circled area on the upper portion of the drawing.
Mhm.
And
Great.
on the lower left, the outdoor shower has been removed. And then Nathan, perhaps you could chime in a little bit, please, on the graphics there of the fence.
Yep, the HDC requested that just to remove the fence in the latest, or the second pass at our revisions, just to see what was going on with the foundation and grades and retaining. And then just showing that the blue is an existing fence and the red line is indicating just an extension of that existing fence.
Very good.
Okay. And again, in the upper right-hand clouded area, we're calling attention to the fact that the roof walk has been removed. And then just left of that, we're indicating that the slight view you would have had of the enclosure for the elevator is eliminated. And then in the lower left, HDC had requested to really try and understand how grade had been, how we were planning to adjust the grade. And so we've added a dashed area to show that approximately the grade has been raised by approximately 2 feet to give a more level terrace area. Okay, again, starting on the, this is the east elevation on the cloud on the center of the gable. The roof walk has been removed. Just to the right, what we previously had for the elevator enclosure is removed, and we're noting that the proposed skylight is a wooden material. And then moving down to the lower right, we're indicating that the outdoor shower has been eliminated. And then just to the left of that, we're indicating that we've changed the grade in order so that you don't step down to step back up onto the porch. And it's been raised approximately, actually a little bit less than 2 feet. And then Nathan, if you could mention about the fence, just the dash line there, please.
Yep, that red fence is an extension of the existing fence, and that will certainly help hide the HVAC units behind.
Great.
This sheet is just a timeline of the previous submissions, the existing at the top, first and second submissions following.
Okay. It all looks pretty good. I mean, I only have a couple of comments personally. Anybody on the board have any comments to talk about?
I do whenever.
Go ahead, Angus.
I think the applicant has really taken to heart everything we had mentioned, and I appreciate all the revisions that it really has come a long way. My only suggestion left is bringing the eave line down a little bit on the subordinate roof lines. So in this picture where you're showing the School Street facade, lowering the eave so that it's right at the head casing of that new addition window. And likewise, when you look at I guess it would be the east view, the same thing with lowering it to the window height. I don't think you lose anything in that attic space, but there's just a proportion there that is, I think, more in keeping with that relation that there'd normally be between the window header and the eave line. Other than that, I'm very happy with everything you've done.
Yeah, that's a great point, Angus. I didn't see that, but I'm glad you mentioned it. It really, it makes the addition plate height or the eave line feel taller than the main roof, which we try to avoid. So I like your suggestion of keep bringing that down lower if that's at all possible. That'd be very helpful.
Yeah,
Um,
just for clarification, the addition roof line, the top of the roof is lower than the main house. I believe is it a foot, Nathan, the number on that?
Correct.
I'm sorry, say that again. What's lower? A foot lower?
The ridge line is a foot lower than the main roof ridge line.
Okay, so I think Angus is referring to, and what I'm looking at myself, is the south elevation. When you look at that view,
Okay,
there you go.
okay,
You see that?
Yeah.
That's it right there, the eve line that
Mhm.
Holly was pointing to. We'd like to get those closer to being similar, or generally the addition would be lower, but you can't get much lower than the main roof as it already is.
Yeah.
Then it'll sit nicely on top of the window casing, just like it does on the main roof. So anybody else, Lucy or Jason? Go ahead, Lucy.
It would be nice if that meter box that's just inside the fence, if that was boxed in.
And that's on the west.
West side, I
Okay.
believe.
Yeah.
Right there.
There you go.
This, just for a little clarity on that existing meter, there is substantial hedge and a tree in that location. It's really barely visible at all.
Well, yeah, the problem is with hedge, they're not evergreen. I've been trying to encourage people to box those in. They're not sightly, and it makes your completed project better looking. If you need examples of box meters, I can certainly supply them. Addresses.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not something that you're proposing to change, and probably wouldn't normally be required to, but it's something that'll really, as Lucy said, I think it'll enhance the appearance of the building.
Yeah, if
So,
you're going to do a job, let's make it as nice as possible for the homeowner.
Jason, you there? No comments? Angus, you're good?
I agree with the meter box, and it shouldn't take very much room. You can pretty much almost just put it right up against the box. It's not like, fencing in an AC unit where you need 3 feet around it or anything.
No.
So my comments were pretty simple. They're going back to I think it's the east elevation to the side. The dormer window. No, probably other direction. There it is. That dormer window H up there still looks to me on the drawing like it's kind of wide and squat, and the panes look, more square than vertical. All the other window panes on the building have a vertical alignment except for that one. And that's a new window, so you should be able to find one that'll give you better proportioned window panes. And my only other comment, and this is not, is on the north elevation, where you've got windows in the foundation. And there's nothing clear enough on the drawing to me to really say this is that there is correct or not. But when we put windows in a brick wall, like a foundation wall, we usually recess them back into behind the surface of the wall. instead of applying right along like you might on a regular wood framed wall. So just a comment, not a criticism at all, just because I can't tell how you're proposing to do it. But so
Yep.
beyond
I
that, those were my suggestions.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That makes sense, Mickey. I understand that. If we could look, could we go to the east elevation again really quickly? What we were on that, the dormer window that you were mentioning, Mickey, if you go to the left and you look at the sort of attic window of the earlier house, it also has a more of a horizontal proportion to the panes. So we were just sort of,
Yeah.
kind of pulling that across so that it was harmonious with the earlier construction.
Yeah, my assumption there is that window was, you just don't see panes of that proportion on old buildings, and that may have been a replacement window at some point. I can't say for sure, but
Mhm.
I hear what you're saying. You're trying to match that, but I would suggest you match other windows rather than that one.
Okay.
Thank you. So I think that's it on the house, unless any other board members have any comments. And seeing none, let's move on to the hardscape. Did you want to introduce this at all, or?
Sure. And Nathan, why don't you jump in here, please, and give us a tour?
Yep. So what we've done here is just graphically shown in blue what is existing and what is being sort of replaced or added. If we start at the right, that brick landing, just a minimal change in grade there, up to the side deck. And then the changes we've made since you've last seen this is we changed the patio to brick. We've changed the stone retaining wall back to a boulder wall, and we've given a few examples of historic district boulder retaining walls that are quite handsome. We've also screened the patio with a row of plantings, as you could see from the little opening in on the School Street sidewalk.
Okay.
And again, just noting those clear, just minimal changes in grade.
Mhm.
And the two red extensions of the existing fence. And on the bottom left are just a couple examples of those boulder retaining walls in town. The one on the bottom left being on the corner of School and Pine.
Okay. Comments?
In general, it all looks good to me. The Boulder, I think more rural than downtown, and there might be examples, but my guess is the examples that you would find would be recently installed as opposed to historic. But in general, I don't have any issues.
Thank you. Lucy?
Yes,
Jason?
I think the brick patio is much too large. And as far as a boulder retaining wall, the one in the lower left, I don't consider that a wall. That to me is boulders just put down to hold back mulching. If it was a wall like the image that you have on, let's see, on Pleasant Street, that is that's a drywall, that I consider a wall. But a line of boulders just to use as retaining, that's not a wall. Also, I don't see an outdoor lighting plan. We do have lighting regulations on Nantucket. And if you, Holly, you can help me out on this. If you Google Nantucket lighting regulations, it will come up. But we are trying to encourage people to support the dark skies movement and not to have excessive lighting or high voltage or
Yes.
high wattage lighting.
Lighting was brought up from your comment previously. Although it's not an HDC purview, it is a town bylaw, and yes, trying to be dark sky compliant would be what we would request. So that's just something that, you know, I think this board through HSAB as well as HGC and staff would just want to remind, I guess, the owner and the applicants that the dark sky compliance bylaw, that's all.
Yeah, and you don't want your neighbors to hate you.
Okay, thanks, Lucy. Jason? Comments?
I agree with Lucy about the size of the patio, but that's all I have to add.
Okay. And myself, I'm gonna go with Angus's comment about the stones. I think that just by the fact that you're calling it a boulder retaining wall, it's sort of foreign to Nantucket. We have stone retaining walls, and I suspect the ones you're pointing out were not terribly historic. I think it would be more appropriate to use a smaller gauge stone that just feels more common downtown, in the downtown area. But other than that, I think both the hardscaping and the main house plans have improved tremendously, and I'm pretty happy with the way they turned out. Any other comments from any board members?
Yeah, I
Lucy?
would say, now that I think about it, I agree with you, Mickey, about the boulder retaining wall. If the house had it did not have a brick foundation, but it had a rubble foundation, I think it would be different. But because it is a brick foundation, or at least faced with brick, that some other alternative should be explored.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. I think we're done with this
Thank
one.
you.
Yep. Next, we have, what do we have? 8 New Mill Street. New dwelling. Is that sort of a garage apartment? You know, I think this is an attractive looking building that they're proposing here. I'm just a little puzzled about whether it's appropriate to have something of this style compared to what the main house is. I should ask, is there anybody representing this application on the call? I don't see anybody. So, board members, what are your thoughts on this?
I actually don't think it's at all appropriate on New Mill, but also with the house, it doesn't fit with the house that's there.
Yeah, it doesn't really fit with the house. And I know there are probably some examples in town where at a later period of an outbuilding was built in a different style than the main house. That's, that probably has happened. I'm not sure it's something we want to encourage. Even though I like to look at this building, I think that's probably a starting point. It's just perhaps the wrong style. I guess, Lucy?
Well, I noticed that for foundation, they just said gray, and I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
As
I guess-
a subordinate, um, auxiliary structure that's basically a garage apartment, it feels very high, almost 27 feet. And there are many houses that are main houses that are 21, 22, 25 feet. And for this to be 27 feet for a garage apartment feels very vertical. I think that the main roof pitch being a 12 is a place to begin with trying to match the house, whether it's an 8 or a 9 pitch. But I doubt it's much more than that, maybe a 10, but definitely not a 12. And maybe lowering the eaves, but it feels very vertical and maybe unnecessarily tall for its location.
Yeah, it's definitely tall. 27 almost is much taller than we need to be for a secondary structure.
I'm sorry to interrupt, do they give you the height of the main house? Because the main house, I don't think is that.
I doubt
No.
they do.
They don't seem to. And then also the age of the the main house. Per the NHL data, 8 New Mill Street is actually 1977, if that's correct. So this is infill itself.
Yeah. Fortunately, the grade drops down. You can see the contour lines on the site plan. 1, 2, 3, or over 3 feet down. Yeah, so it'll sit lower than the house, but still, I kind of think the starting point is, rather than the Victorian house building, it should be more. I'm not sure what. I mean, this has sort of a carriage house feel to it. Once you go to more of a Quaker style or that period, what is it? What is it? A barn?
I don't, it's me, I don't, except for like Paul Morris's house, I don't think any other house on that street has a secondary dwelling.
Mhm.
There's his little, the little shop, his little scrimshaw shop behind the house, but other than that,
Mhm.
it's just.
Well, try to find some creative, constructive advice to give to the designer in terms of the style of the building and direction.
Yeah.
Also, I would say that, in general, we're trying to discourage freestanding exterior stairways. And I know that only half of this is visible. I mean, the whole reason for the second means of egress is that if you can't get out one way, you can get out another. But these are like within 3 feet of each other, the first and the second. So if there's a problem at that side of the building, it's an issue. I would suggest turning the stair in such a way that it doesn't come down alongside the house. But that would be my only other comment.
Mhm.
Sorry. The other thing is that the backs of these houses, most of them are visible from, is it Mill, where the Ham Pony lot is?
Yeah,
You can see
I looked at that.
backyard of several houses.
You
Backs all.
I think you can see through there. I went on Street View and looked through there, and it was all leafed out and it's pretty dense. But maybe in the off season, you might see to the back of this.
Yeah, if you're at like the poor house or oh, I can see his face. It's house down. I park there all the time, and you can see back behind each of those houses. 'Cause they
Okay, I
have
was
big
feeling,
backyards.
yeah, I didn't think it would be very visible, but you're saying it is. So you would know. Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, hi, Brooke.
Hi,
You're back.
I am. I actually have a comment on this if you want.
Good.
One of the
Go
things
ahead.
that you can do with these stairs to meet the remotest possible means of egress requirement is that you have a set of stairs that splits in the middle and stays on the inside of the building and goes out on each end or each side under the eave. And that meets the letter of the law. So you could have a building without an exterior stair and still meet code.
Okay, almost like two individual.
Yeah, you just have one, I mean, you just have one door on the, whatever it is, northeast or southwest elevation and one on the northeast.
Mhm.
So I've done it on a few different designs and it is legal. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but it is legal.
Okay. Good to know. All right, so, I think we also need to comment on this design, just in case for some reason the HDC feels that they're gonna, I think we should be a little more specific about the finer points of this, the way this looks. I think we talked about the roof pitch. There's also that gable end horizontal boarding facing the road. I mean, I think those to me are standouts, the double brackets on the door hood.
What about the shutters?
Yeah, the shutters are again of the style that's more cottagey than old. I'm gonna.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
looking at the window schedule, and those French doors coming out onto the balcony are 9 feet by 7 feet high, which is telling me that the soffit or the eave height of those dormers is like 9 feet high.
Yeah.
Like, I think that could really come down some
Yeah.
to reduce the overall height.
Well, what is the ridge height?
26.9.
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's just too tall. I think we can just say that and let them figure out how to get to a better starting point.
Yeah, it's definitely too tall, and you're right, Angus, about the relationship of those doors and the windows, and also in this house also has that issue of the shingles above the dormer windows. They could be a little tighter and eliminate that band of shingles. So that whole plate can come down considerably. So there's a number of issues I think they'll need to address. I've got a short, not even that short list here, and you'll see them in my comments if you can add to that. There's several things that need to be addressed. Any other thoughts on this one?
Nope.
Let's move to what's next. 62 Walsh. Is Lisa here?
Mr. Chair, Lisa emailed me earlier this morning and said she probably wouldn't be able to attend. So
Okay,
she will.
right. We'll move on without her. I think all she's doing here is just changing one wall to board and bed and siding. Anybody have any thoughts about visibility on this one? I don't think they would get those windows if anybody thought this was visible. So I'm guessing it's not. My comment here is that, for one, probably not visible, but I still don't like board and batten siding on Brant Point. So I was just going to comment on that. Prefer shingles. Any other thoughts here?
I agree with you, Mickey.
So do I.
I agree as well. And I was driving along North Beach Street the other day and was thinking, oh yeah, that's the building we've been talking about for a while. So it is visible. I don't know how visible these doors are, but yeah, doesn't really look like anything that would be down there.
That's for sure. Brooke?
I agree. May I see the site plan again quickly? And so it's that one, and there's the garage doors. And can you zoom in on the locust map, please? All right. Is there a building going in on 66 Walsh Street, where like 2985?
Yes, all of this has been like re-subdivided.
Okay, so that's
Yes.
all getting built.
If you look,
Yeah, I guess, if it's not visible, it's not visible. I don't know that it really goes with anything down there, but I'd almost prefer to see it.
we lost him again.
We lost you, Brooke.
He's frozen.
I think that large
Oh.
overhead door with the proposed siding is just too much. I think that with that overhead door, they should be sticking to shingles.
Yeah, I think I think we can just stick to the comment that we would much prefer to see shingles. And it sounds pretty,
That's been your
Unanimous in our
consistent
group.
comment too on this.
yeah. I think we said it before. I keep trying. And we're not commenting on the door. Apparently that's already approved. So let's move on to 22 Orange Street. If we lost Brooke entirely again.
I was a little confused with this application because it's asking for a change to the skirt color, but I don't see a proposed skirt in any of the plans.
Holly, could you please bring up the photograph?
Hi.
There were no
You see
internal
that?
candidates.
It's already white.
Oh, there it is.
And across the street, that immediate area, the roof walks don't have skirts. There are skirts on roof walks on the other side of the hill on Orange. I think I gave you another photograph of right across the street of 2 roof walks, Holly.
Is that 29?
I don't know what numbers they were. I think they were in the same.
Holly, do you know if this skirt was approved? I think Angus, I kind of noticed a similar thing to Angus. That the previous approval drawing showed no skirt as far as I could tell.
This was the photo. Hold on, I can view,
Yes, that's it.
rotate it.
That's right across the street.
Yeah, 2 of them without skirts.
So if a skirt was proposed and approved, which is atypical of what's around it, the white just even calls more attention to it, I think.
I agree. I was going to suggest just painting it gray or leaving it natural, but I don't mind gray. I would, if they were asking about the skirt, I'd probably say not on this building because the style is pretty simple and pretty old feeling and probably would mean no skirt. But if they're asking for the color, I think I would say gray because it's, it's going to stand out. Can we see that picture again of Lucy's? What color is the roof? Is it asphalt? an asphalt roof. And the white just really stands out on that asphalt roof. So I would say gray personally. And I'll
Or
probably make a
natural.
comment. Or natural.
Yeah,
I'm confused. Did they get, did they get approval for the skirt or not?
Holly, do you know?
I am not aware, but this application is revisions. So there is a revision number. Let's look back at the application and see.
Because it said, it looked like one of the existing images did show it with drawings, did show it with no skirt, so.
Yeah, it did.
Existing.
Existing, and then the previous approval still has no skirt on it.
Right.
It looked like there was a skirt maybe in the back. Do I have that right? But not on the front. On the previous approval.
Yeah, it just
None
says
there.
proposed. Previously approved.
No skirt.
No skirt. Nope.
Because if
Okay.
it's supposed to be a skirt, then it should just go away.
22 Orange Street is a 1760 typical Nantucket.
so it shouldn't have a skirt.
Yeah, the skirt. All right, so we'll comment that it shouldn't have a skirt period, and if for some reason they got an approval earlier that we don't know about, we'd like it to be gray or natural. That sound good?
But ideally, they should not have a skirt at all.
And
Yeah,
I'd
like
be
rolled
careful
up.
about the gray because there are a lot of grays that just read as a creamy white.
Yeah, you've got to
How about
say
dark?
gray. Because
What
otherwise,
kind of gray?
Pardon?
Did you give a color, Lucy?
well, no, but I think you do have to give a color because I had an incident with, or came across something with my neighbor in Quays, and they said it was gray and it looked like they put one drop of black in the can of paint.
I think you
Can
asked
we just
for,
say dark gray?
well, and which, I can never remember which, is it the Nantucket or Quaker? The one that has, there's one that's more green.
Nantucket.
It's weird. There are two Nantucket grays, and one of them is like a battleship light silvery gray, and then the other one is more putty with a little bit more green and yellow in it. And I
It's
think
not the greeny, the gray. It's Nantucket gray or Quaker gray, right? Are they still calling them?
but either one of those, I think on this dark roof is gonna, it's still gonna feel like a mass that shouldn't be there. Seems like it should be darker than that, but
How about if we just say dark gray for now?
Dark gray, but ideally goes away.
Yeah. Brooke is not able to get back in, but I'm gonna ask if he can phone in. Because he has an application. Okay, we're good there? Moving on. 62 Walsh, back to that one again. So they're doing a couple things here. One is they're stretching the building, and I don't have a problem with that. It's just more of the same. It looks fine. The other is the change to the garage, the doors on the garage wing, which I found kind of confusing. When you look at around the corner, you see two garage doors, and then you see this sliding barn door, somehow concealing a batten door behind it. I was basically going to suggest this is a simple building. It's just, why complicate that side of the garage Why not just put a door and a window in? Keep it simple. What do you all think about that?
I agree.
As do I. It's weird looking.
Mickey,
Yeah.
you're suggesting that on the west elevation to get rid of the rolling doors and just have the batten door?
Just have, yeah, they can have a batten door, just a door. They probably should have more than just one hole in the wall there on that lower edge. So I'd say the door and a window. Move the door to the side.
Yeah, I think it's weird to have the rolling door and then a batten door behind that. That just doesn't seem to make any sense.
I agree. So that's my comment. Is it confusing the way it's shown and rather to see a window and a door? Does that sound good?
Yeah. Now there's
Okay.
shutters on that north elevation.
There's shutters around the building in various places.
Yeah, but
Oh.
if the shutters don't cover the full expanse of the window, isn't that a
Correct.
no-no?
Where are you?
North elevation, second floor, right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not the usual way of doing it. Do we want to comment on that?
They should go.
Okay.
Shutters are supposed to be functional.
Are those the only shutters on the house?
Now the front dormers,
Oh,
And then-
okay, yeah,
west elevation, you'll see more.
right.
Okay, 62 low. Shutters and the dormer. All right. Good with this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. 19 Quaker Road, new dwelling. Okay. I've got a few comments on this one. Anybody want to go first here? Angus?
To me, the proportions don't seem right. It's like the wall's too big for the windows or the windows are too small for the wall. But
Mhm.
something doesn't look right there. The eave looks high, or I don't know, something doesn't look right on the facade.
Yeah, that was my first comment. The windows, it's out of proportion. The windows should be bigger. If they can't make the wall smaller, I think those windows need to get bigger. Any other thoughts?
The roof feels, when you're looking at the facade, but then it really, becomes apparent when you get the gable end view, but the roof just looks so high compared to those otherwise, well-proportioned dormers. It would be normally the dormer that was like the roof, the peak would be maybe half that distance from the top of the dormer roof to the peak. I don't know what's making it seem so weird. Is it that the pitch is steep, or it's just a wide gable, or I don't know.
It's a deep gable. I think there's, they're putting little elements on a kind of a large house, and they're not fitting terribly well.
Where exactly is this going? I'm confused as to where it is on Quaker.
It's behind, Dick, what's his name?
It's one
Alloy
block
and-
from Prospect.
Yeah, it's behind Dick Liddon's old house.
Okay, so, oh, it's going behind the big house.
Behind the big house, yeah.
There's
Quaker.
there's little tiny cottages next to it. I know the big house is in front of it. You go from the big house and then you go swooping down to one level houses next to it. I don't think it fits with the neighborhood. The windows don't fit with the neighborhood. I mean, I agree with Angus about it's like all wall and all roof. It's missing, and then there's other elements of it. There's portions of it that have no windows. I think it needs
You're
to.
right about, I'm looking at Street View, and I can see that the cottages just before you get to it are just tiny little one-story.
Yeah.
things.
And it's kind of reading it as like, starts out as a Nantucket 3-bay, but then there are these 2/2s instead of 6/6s, and there's just the scale, the height, the verticality of it just seems extreme for there. If it were squeezed between houses, on, like, I don't know, name a street anywhere, in the core where it's like house to house and there's like 5 feet between buildings, this sort of design I think would make more sense, but I feel like this is a little bit free floating to be this sort of narrow and high.
Mhm. I
And
mean,
this
that piece, there's no windows on it.
Right, and that's what you're going to see when you're heading away from Quaker towards Milk Street.
That's another of my comments, is that wall obviously needs more windows. Needs a window, period, or two. So my comments were, and I'm adding the scale, as Angus points out, just seems to be off. It also, I think, would benefit from having a central chimney. And, if they have to put a fake one on there, I think that would, better than nothing. The additive rear masses should have a lower plate. When you go down to maybe the south or the
West?
Yeah, probably the south of south there, yeah. Those two additive masses in the back, I feel like the plate should drop on both of those to make it more subordinate to the main mass. Windows look too small. I know that the dormer windows, the C windows in those shed dormers, they're kind of square looking. Not those, the other dormer. Those windows. And that blank wall that you see there also. So, any other comments to add to that?
That's really high visibility on that north gable end as you head into, head to Milk Street from Main Street and Nantucket Road.
Yeah, it really is.
But this is making me, I was expecting to look at the ridge and see 35 feet, but it says 25 feet, which makes me really wonder about the fenestration on the front that makes it look so tall, but also a reminder that 26.9 for the garage apartment. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, it's up there. Yeah, I think that was what I was thinking at first, is those A windows on the very front of the building. I don't know what the window schedule says. Here it is. 210 by 5 feet. They're not small, but they look small in the facade. But
And the front door,
Oh.
that's not a small door being 7 feet tall.
Yeah. I don't know. The 8 to 8 ceiling height, that's probably contributing to the height scale of this. Maybe the second floor should come down a little bit.
Oh, right, because it would normally be like, yeah, a 7.5 foot ceiling for like that kind of style house.
Right. I don't know. I think some tweaking. All right, any other comments?
Just on the theme of the verticality, I think that it would help to go with 6/6s instead of those long 2/2 panes. I think that that contributes to that
Yeah.
vertical thing going on.
And there are no other 2/2s in the neighborhood. Though. It's really more of an older style neighborhood.
It's weird though, like,
Sorry.
oh, sorry, I was gonna say a couple of houses north of there, like new houses, those were funky houses that didn't seem like they fit into the neighborhood either.
Most of the houses right along that area are 1.5 story, except for like, what was it, what Teachmore or whatever it used to be. They're all pretty simple.
They're simple, yeah. Yeah. Was there one down? Bertha, does that have? I'm looking on street view some more. The other.
Hey guys, this is Tim Carruthers. Do you hear me?
Yeah, hi Tim.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
You want to give you a quick overview here?
Well, hang on just one second. We're just wrapping up the previous one.
I
But,
just saw that scrolling up
right
and I
at the
thought we were
neighborhood there.
already in. Sorry, I jumped the gun.
Yeah, right across the street. That's right. Any other comments on the last one? I think we're good there. So, all right, Tim, now you're on.
All right. So this is a single-story property with a black asphalt roof. We're proposing to build a solar array on the rear of the property, on the rear roof. The rear roof has a low pitch. It's 12/4.5. And the panels won't be seen from Quaker Road. You'll see from the perspectives of the pictures that we shot in the application. That's the rear there.
How high do they sit off the roof?
They're going to sit about 4 inches off the roof.
Holly, can we put in that we don't want the panels to sit higher than 4.5 inches or something like that? That would include all the brackets and whatever engineering you do.
That's correct. And in fact, if you can, if you like, you can go take a look at the project we completed at 132 Main. That was also a very low profile on a relatively low pitch. And it's, I mean, you have to really work to try and see them, but you can see how flush they are to the roof.
Oh, good, I appreciate that.
Good. Any, I'm not there, but to me, this looks like a roof plane that we just can't see. Does anybody feel otherwise? Okay.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with it also. No concerns, except I'll make a comment to make the panels no more than 4 inches off the roof.
I have no issues.
Right, this is a per the NHL data circa 1940s type ranch. At least that's what it says.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you,
I think
everybody.
we're okay. Thank you. Next,
Angus,
30.
Oh, I'm gonna take
30.
off my board
Okay.
hat and put on my architect presentation hat.
Good.
You guys saw this project not long ago for the proposal of a gable that headed towards the back and a dormer on the back. And so they want to have air conditioning. So there really isn't a place in the back to put it. So this is on the side towards the back. The neighbor directly to the left of this, up Pine Street, has their units right up at the front corner of their house. I guess that, got approved, but I mean, they're clearly visible. There's a fence and there's a bush, but we wanted to do a better job than that. And so these are set back off the street, but then there's a fence that would be a relatively low fence, but would obstruct the view from the sidewalk of the units, is the entire purpose of that. And it would just be a vertical plank fence that's natural with the type 2 cap on it. The other thing is the outdoor shower was more vertical and right up to that that high wall. It was right up to that edge. If you go to the next elevation, Holly, yeah, there. You can see the dotted line of where it was. And so it scoots around the corner a little bit and then it drops. So it's just getting a little bit smaller. There's a little bit of a slope there with the grade. So the bulkhead is underneath that window to the right of the shower is not fencing. That's just the bulkhead that exists. And then to the right of the bulkhead is the fence that would obscure the view of the AC units. And then the skylight is the smallest Velux that is offered that would be sandwiched between the dormer and the gable, and it's not visible.
I believe it. My only comments on this, Angus, was that fence, the way you drew it on the elevation to probably the north. Up one maybe. It just looks like it's like you're just covering the top of the AC unit. You probably don't know exactly how tall it is anyway, but I mean, if you could maybe make that fence of, maybe 6 inches higher or just a little bit higher. I don't know if that's possible, just to give me a little more confidence that it'll cover it.
Yeah, because this is raised up off the street, it's not like a 3-foot fence at street level, and then you look over the fence at these units. But the whole intention of the fence is to obscure the view. So when the units are installed, we'll make sure that from the street you can't see it. And if that fence has to grow from 3 feet to 3.5 feet, I just didn't want a 5-foot or 6-foot fence because it's unnecessary.
Right.
It's basically to hide the unit. So we're fine with raising it as much as you'd want.
Okay, I'll just put raised fence if needed. And maybe it's not. Any other thoughts?
No.
Josie or Jason? Okay. And the skylight, I'm sure, is not visible in the shower. I don't care about it. So that all looks good. Thanks.
I'm back on the board.
29 Center Street. I'm not sure, this is just changing the meeting house front clapboard to gray. I thought it already was kind of gray, but maybe it isn't as gray as they want it to be.
it was
Hey,
that.
Matt, you there?
Hey, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can, yep, go ahead.
So yeah, this is just an application to change the front clapboard color. It's currently, believe it or not, a very light olive green. And we wanted to change it to the gray. I think we've called it Quaker gray. And I also, Mr. Chair, if I could, I wanted to follow up on something that we may amend. I don't know if we can piggyback it on this application, but I wanted to get some feedback from you and the board, if I could, about the, there was this notion of a side window that we were, before you, I think, maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago for, it was part of the railing revision to the front of the building. Basically you had suggested potentially adding or keeping that existing window and, you know, placing it to the left or the right of that that egress door. And the HTC, you know, asked us to do it, and we basically said, you know, sure, we could do it. It turns out it's a bit more complicated than I anticipated. So I think I'm here today to talk to you about the color, the clabbered color primarily. But since the HTC approval and since coming to see you, there's some complexities associated with that window issue. So I was wondering if there's any way I could get some feedback from you on that and advice on that as well. So, but with that, maybe we should just talk about the color for now.
Well, regarding the color, let's go back to that window. Anybody have any thoughts about the color? Any concerns?
I did send Holly a photograph of the street view, and it is an olive green.
Okay. But the change, do we care? I mean, we okay with the Quaker gray change?
Yeah, my only comment, Mickey, was that we're seeing a lot of Quaker gray around town. I mean, I'm fine with the Quaker gray, but I'm fine with white too.
Right.
There, you can see it is an olive green.
Yeah, I
Right.
never noticed it, honest. Like I don't know what color I thought it was, but I didn't think. If you asked me what color it was, and I've been there a million times, olive green would not have been my.
It used to be yellow.
Yeah.
The Roberts house, yes, and you can, the little chip next, you can see a little chip on the Roberts house is yellow.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to, did anybody see yesterday's Globe in the travel section? This place was highlighted and the patio was all done and all the furnishings and umbrellas were already in the photograph.
I think that was probably a render. I haven't seen that, but I'm guessing it was a rendering.
It was in yesterday's paper.
Huh. Yeah, they had done some
Ahead of it.
renderings and they're trying to get out ahead of it.
I'm
They
okay with
also,
gray.
for what it's worth, they did discuss white as an option, but I don't know if the board has a preference.
I'd rather not see white. But,
I'd rather not see white either.
I think what makes town work and you know, what gives it character and makes it interesting is a variety of colors. So yeah, I think that it's probably preferable that it's not the same color as what's adjacent. So the gray probably is more appropriate. I don't know what the next place over to the left is right now,
gray.
if that's Quaker gray.
It is gray.
It's a gray, but it's very, very light. So
Maybe that it's that light Nantucket gray.
it's very, very light. It's not a Quaker. So
I'm fine
yeah.
with it.
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
Okay. Jason's nodding. So, okay, I think we're good with that color change. And then to that window, man, I'm sure I can really comment without seeing the drawings for it. So,
Yeah, I know. I figured while I was here, I'd have the opportunity. We might submit revisions and try to maybe piggyback it with this. But basically, long and short of it is, the HEC asked us to add a window based on your suggestion to the right of an egress door. And so, but the door has to be tempered. The window has to be tempered. The frame is in, it's basically, we have to order a new window, and the lead time on that is, I think, between 10 and 12 weeks. And they're trying to open, obviously within the next, month or 2 or 2 months. And the timing is just not going to work out for us to order the new window. And I just didn't know how strongly everyone felt about it, but it poses quite a bit of issues. So I'm just trying to get ahead of it. If this board didn't feel strongly about it, it's just a situation we're in. I think if we had more time, we could make it happen. But in order to try and get open, we're just not going to get that window in time. So I'm just kind of looking for advice.
Matt, I have a question about, is that the one that we suggested putting into the luggage room?
Yes.
Is the tempering because the sill goes below a certain height or because of fire or what?
It's two parts. That we couldn't put it to the left in the luggage room because there's actually a vent for a gas. There's a gas vent that would actually conflict with the header height of the window, number one. Number two is there's a minimum, we can't actually have the vent within a certain distance of an opening, which I did explain to the HTC in the meeting. I said, in your notes, you had mentioned it and Holly, brought it up, and then we talked about it. I said, oh yeah. And I said, we did talk about it internally. And then the reason we couldn't do it is because of X, Y, and Z. And they said, well, maybe can you move it to the right? And kept kind of going back and forth. And if you move it to the right of the door, it's in the stairwell. And it actually, the bottom of the sill of the window is within like inches of the tread. And also the condition, from what I understand with the contractor, the condition of that existing window is basically in horrible condition. So for a number of reasons, it's just we have to get a new window, and they're not going to be able to get it in time is our issue.
I was just trying to think of a way that you could make it all right from the inside, whether you put in plexiglass or a tempered panel, or even make it a blind window from the inside to deal with whatever infrastructure you have. But it's just from the outside.
The contractor has told me that existing window is just not salvageable. Like even from the out, because I did explain that. I said we could just make a blind. He's basically like, I don't even think I could put it back together. It's just in bad shape. We would definitely have to replace the window. The existing window is basically, in his opinion, unusable. So that's as much of an issue as anything. We could, because we did talk about making it a blind, but he's like, I can't use it. So we have to get a new one.
What about going with a tempered panel or a tempered window until the window comes in?
A tempered window.
Just I hate to say it, but like a plate glass, just to fill the hole, or temporary wall or something, just to hold the spot till the window could get ordered and installed.
I mean, we could, I think that would have to be some because I think that we can get it done after the the season, but I would probably need, in order to get our HTC inspection and sign off, we would have to have something that would allow us to either do it in the fall, or to your point, if we literally just made a frame and had a piece of plywood. It won't look really great, but I just don't know if it's something we could do after in the fall, or because I think that I know what you're saying. Like you could frame out for the window, put the casing there, but then don't have a window in there. But I don't know what you would put in its place. Like,
well, usually when you do a blind window, it would be whatever the side is. That would be clapboard, or is it shingle on the side? I'm not sure, but
it's shingle on the side, I believe.
But usually that just matches the material.
Yep. Oh, just shingle. Yeah, it'd be shingle like they have at the hospital. Some of those windows in the new hospital are like that.
Just to get through to the fall till you could put in the real window.
Something like that. I mean, again, I think I can just hear them yelling at me now for coming back to this idea. I mean, so the long and short of it is they said they could do it in the fall, or we could just not do it at all. So this just came up in the last like 3 or 4 days. And so I figured we were going to be before you for this color change. I just wanted to get some feedback because we'll probably be back before you and the HTC. They may be able to make some kind of a motion to that effect. But I guess, anyways, I think what our issue is, and I guess if that's an option, like that might be the solution, just to kind of trim it out and shingle the inside of it until the new window comes in.
I think, Matt, it's sounding like most of us would love to keep the window if possible. And, there must be a creative way of letting it happen now or later. And I think we'll leave it up to you to come up with some alternatives.
Okay. The biggest thing is my timing. So I might, to get a new application in, it's May, I think 11th, which is obviously weeks away. So any indication, I don't know if there's any feedback that you could give the board on this subject so that when it does, if it does come back up with them, I could, any feedback, they'll definitely want your feedback. And so if there's any way to add some of that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably going to be our feedback, is we would like to see a solution to getting the window back on the building, and don't want to dictate exactly how that's done.
Okay.
There are plenty alternatives. So,
Okay.
but we're good for the color.
Thank you.
All righty. Thanks, Dan.
Yep. I think I got another
We're going
word
to
for
see you
this.
again.
And I'm trying to, I just got a new laptop, so my camera is facing the wrong way. I'm trying to figure that out.
So where are we? 26 Easy Street.
So I can
I'm
start whenever
gonna have to
you're
go
ready.
after this one. I'm sorry.
What's that?
I'm gonna have to leave after this one.
Okay. All right. So Matt, do you want to talk about this one?
Sure. So this is 26 Easy Street. There is an approval to demolish the existing building that's there. And this is what is proposed to go in its place. It is a first floor retail with 2 apartments above. And I don't know, the massing schematic, we wanted to certainly have a presence on Easy Street. It's a corner lot, so it's got presence on Oak and Easy. And so kind of worked hard so that there was some, additive massing and some, layering, if you will, and presence on essentially both elevations. We do have some site conditions. The north elevation is, because of its proximity to property line, the code limits openings within a certain distance. And we've taken because that's actually at an angle, that's why the north elevation has less fenestration on it. I do think that we probably would do some kind of trellis work. But I don't like to put that on there unless it's, I know that once it's on there, it's binding. The first floor is fenestrated, obviously for, retail use. Easy Street in particular is, obviously becoming more and more, retail centric. It is part of downtown. And so the intent here is to, again, have retail. We're not exactly sure who the retailer will be, but that would be on the first floor. On the upper floors, again, it's a residential use, and we've integrated a few second floor decks. Primarily, I just think I actually like the aesthetic of them as well. They add, again, another level of layering to the elevations, if you will. We did integrate Dutch hips, which I think tend to soften the edges a little bit here. Not overly committed to those, but thought it was kind of a different approach, if you will. It's got there's no corner boards. We've got cottage corners. Got a bit of a shingle swale. I've got some intermediate, horizontal banding at the first floor elevation. So the first floor, floor elevation, if you will, and second floor elevation, again, to integrate a, kind of a strong horizontal line at that first to second floor elevation. So I'm sure there's lots to talk about, but second floor railings is a good mix of shingled and open rail. We've got some bracketed pent roofs on the backside for the residential entrance. We only need one residential entrance, which is kind of nice, which is right there. Thank you. And shed dormers on the rear. We've done these combinations of it's kind of like a play on the wall Winnet dormer a little bit. Again, yeah, square footage is a little tight in the upper floors, but we thought the use of those gable or hip dormers with the shed connector was kind of an interesting detail. Again, our primary purpose here is, or our goal was to add a little bit of detail, not too much. But with that, I'm sure everyone's has some thoughts, so I'm just really looking forward to hearing them. One other point or comment was the owner was hoping at some point to create a front entry, something similar to the one at 20 Robert Young's building. The number escapes me at the moment, with the elevated brick platform. And so this is something that we were looking to do. We're still before a conservation commission right now in terms of developing the foundation detail for this footprint. And that would be one part of it. But there was some discussion about potentially taking that slightly elevated brick entry platform and potentially connecting the two. There's some complexities with that, but I just wanted to put that out there to see if there's any specific thoughts. The building, is accessible. On the south elevation, there is a 1 in 12 ramp that's kind of tucked behind that wraparound porch. Providing accessibility can be a challenge, but I think that kind of worked in the math. It's close, and we should be good to go. But basically, it's an accessible. That's our accessible entrance. It doesn't look like a traditional ramp, but it does meet all the requirements. So with that, that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. So,
Mr. Chair,
what are your thoughts? Yeah.
Matt, I just wanted to see if you've had a chance to take a look at our Resilient Nantucket draft design guidelines that we're working on, which are based on the National Park Service's recommendation for flooding adaptation. Curious on if, obviously, you're elevating. Just curious if you've taken a look at that. I'm glad to hear you're looking at the abutting property. That is one example that the HDC, through our community charrettes that we've had in the last year, took a look at as far as what it could look like. But I'm just curious if you've taken a look at our design guidelines.
Not in depth. I mean, I've been part of that whole Remain Nantucket process, so I'm pretty, definitely I've spoken a couple times for the public engagements, and so I'm pretty familiar with a lot of the issues there. Obviously, this sits below the floodplain, which we are allowed to do. And obviously, this is one of the more, I actually would say that Easy Street is in many ways a test case for some of the issues that we're all facing, specifically retailers, commercial. These are commercial lots. I mean, this is very pedestrian friendly commercial area. Retailers, you're faced with this issue of potentially raising their first floor elevations 6-7 feet above the street level. Well, most retailers will tell you that that's basically just doesn't work. Most people, it poses a number of issues. Accessibility, number one. Number two is just there's a kind of a psychological barrier between a big set of stairs to retail. So in this particular instance, I think that this is what this person's done, and we've done 2 other buildings on Easy Street that have taken a similar approach. I think long term, these give you the ability that if the street was ever elevated, it'll probably be done in increments over time. That these buildings would all still facilitate, a street elevation change over time. Obviously not up to that full, floodplain elevation, but again, if it gets to that, we'll have to certainly deal with it. But we think this is a solid compromise.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to make sure because sometimes the mechanisms of wet flood proofing and dry flood proofing seem to be something that some folks don't really look at. Yeah, and they're just looking straight to elevation. So I was just wondering. I figured but I just wanted to mention it.
Yeah, no, we've done, I mean, so basically the system, we've got the door dams and, we obviously have to design the slab and the walls below and a foot above the floodplain to withstand the hydrostatic pressure, not only laterally, but, vertically, believe it or not, for tidal surge. So it'll all be compliant. We also have to, basically weight the building down in the case that it does flood to the floodplain elevation. From a code perspective, we should be in good shape. And also, one thing we do keep in mind is the streetscape. We've actually got some 3D models that we're going to present. We may probably will add it to the submission just for supplemental material. But it is important that all the structures have some consistent elevation, and that's why I think that this is a decent solution where it's not. Anytime you have a streetscape and you've got one building that's 7 feet out of the ground, the next one to it is 12 inches. It makes for kind of a disjointed elevation, if you will. So anyways, we think it's a good solution, but obviously looking forward to the board's comments.
Holly, could you
Thanks, Matt.
please bring up the photographs I sent to you this morning of the streetscape? Thank you.
So that's 28 Easy Street next to it.
Yeah, Bob Young's.
Mm-hmm. And so that finished floor level will be at the same level. Our proposed finished floor level will be at the same level as his. And the ownership would love to actually take this same approach, and they actually would love to connect the two structures. There's some logistics that have to be navigated, but that would be the ultimate goal. I think that we'll approach it from almost, if we do take that route, if we do get the approvals that we need, then it would be more of a landscape application, but either way, it would be back before you.
Okay, so board members, what are we thinking? Comments?
Mickey.
Jason, since you need to go, do you want to start?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I have another meeting at 2:45. I don't know where to start. I'm sorry. So we're replacing a 1.5 story little unobtrusive building with something that I really feel is lurching over that corner. Right now, there's a pretty much still an open feeling, despite the building next to it. I appreciate the kind of trying to be a little quirky, add this little Victorian-esque kind of type thing. But I think the building is too big. It's too tall. It's there really isn't a lot of additive massing. I would like to see a reduction of it overall. The roof walk is totally inappropriate on it. The little connectors between these dormers are not appropriate. I just think it's too much, and I don't even know where to kind of start.
I think that was a pretty good start.
Sorry, Matt.
No, you have to apologize. No,
it's just that it's too. I mean, I know that Dreamland grew and Next Door grew and other things, but this is an opportunity to like do something that really fits with what really should have been there.
Mhm.
And this just, it has aspects that could work, but maybe if it was brought down further, I mean, it's just going to like loom over that corner.
We've got some renderings, which I think will be helpful, but
That's all I can say right now.
I think you've put into words a lot of what I'm thinking already myself. You know, Matt, it's a nice looking building, but I just think in this location, the old waterfront had simpler buildings. They were more utilitarian and, you know, it was practically an industrial zone.
Mhm.
So, I mean, this is attractive, but I'd rather see something simpler, and I definitely think it's too tall. I think the third floor has got to go. You know, maybe a dormer up there, but a simple one at that. I just think it's, you know, it looks nice, but it's too much for that corner. I think it's a really prominent spot and too tall and perhaps too massive. Maybe some additive massing would help, as Jason pointed out. Angus?
I'm pretty much with you guys. I think that it's an attractive building in the right circumstances where it's got other high buildings around it. But Mickey, I think you make a good point about the history of this area being, you know, very simple, almost industrial buildings that are very straightforward gables. The hipped gables are personally a favorite of mine, but it feels more like Bathing Beach or Upper Holbert Avenue rather than you know, right at the harbor. And the shop front that happened a little bit closer to Main Street with the shops below and the balcony above. I would hate to see a repeat of that all the way along the Easy Street Basin. I think it would become very blah. You know, this is the front door of Nantucket for many coming from the water, and I don't think we want to have a row of new buildings with picture windows below and balconies above. And I'm with Mickey on the third floor just being too much. It just feels like it would be towering around everything. The Dreamland's always been a big building, and you know, that was just part of its thing. But part of what makes that work is that it is still a fairly simple box with a gable. And so I think it just feels busy and high and too large a scale. That's all.
Thanks, Angus. Lucy, you got your hand up?
Yes, I agree with Jason about softening that corner. The building is too high. Let's not forget that behind the Dreamland, you've got that brick patio, open space, whatever you call it, so that softens the height of the Dreamland there. And also across the street, you have the new park that is being landscaped right now. So I think that doing the third floor in this building is just too much mass. And as far as the balconies, I'm not in favor of the side balconies. Possibly the one facing the harbor, yes, but I just don't like this feeling of let's look down at the little people.
Mhm. I mean, that's not the intention, obviously. It's
I know, but if people have come in with other applications of
Mhm.
situations like that, and it's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, one of the just with the balconies, I would say is that, you know, in town, you know, if you where you do have residences on the second floor, which again, it's not necessarily a housing issue per se, but I do like the idea of the mixed use structures in the core district, because I do think that they, you know, obviously a developer will, you know, they have their own motivations, but from an urban planning perspective, I think that if you have more residences in the core district, It just adds to a more pedestrian friendly area and more vibrancy. And I know that's not necessarily the jurisdiction of this board or the HTC per se, but I do think there is a value, to the mixed use, specifically residential, uses on the second floor.
Yeah,
Other than that-
I have lived in a mixed use building, an apartment, actually on Center Street. So I completely understand that. But I also, having done that, I realized the acoustics that happen downtown that most
Oh, yeah.
people are not aware of.
No.
But I
the
just
model
don't
is-
I'm not a big fan of the balconies in a situation like this. Facing the harbor, that to me, that is understandable, but on the other side, no.
Right, and I totally agree. The only thing, my point in saying that is that having a little bit of outdoor space, I've found is just really valuable for, like, if you're going to grow a plant or maybe you're, so I hear you, but I think that there's two sides to that coin in terms of.
Matt, there's a park across the street.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I know, but it's just, like I said, having lived in an apartment, it's kind of a nice thing to have. So that's the motivation. It's not to make anybody feel small. That's definitely not the motivation. But I definitely appreciate your perspective and hear what you're saying.
I think we all agree with you regarding living in those residential units. We'd all love to have a balcony, but historically speaking, I don't think there ever were any balconies downtown in the whole period that we really care about of Nantucket. So we're starting to see a lot of them. I can look on the street view and see a bunch of them already. And just getting more and more balconies, I think, is the wrong direction. It's not a historical look for downtown Nantucket.
Well, I like the idea too of, I'm sorry, Mickey.
No, go ahead, I'm done.
I like the idea of mixed use. I think we're all fans of that. And I think we're fans of, if you were to live in one of these, you would want a little bit of outdoor space. And I think that would have to be grabbed in an inconspicuous way, not on the street, but behind. And so that would mean carving some out of the footprint, facing a direction that's not on the street. But that's a program issue.
Okay, I think you're getting the general drift of what we're talking about, Matt, just a little bit too much.
So you want me to go taller and bigger is what I'm hearing,
Yeah.
and more
You're
balconies.
getting it. Please.
We want to rival something from Abu Dhabi.
So you're saying go bigger. No, I appreciate
23
it.
floors.
Yeah. All right. Well, I obviously, the HTC will comment, and I'm sure you'll be seeing us again. So.
Yep. Hope so.
And
all right.
All right. Well, thank you for your time as always. Have a great day.
Thanks, Matt.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Bye.
You too.
See ya.
See ya. All right. Back to down to 2224 Easton Street. Is there any representation here? Is this the four of us left?
Just the four of us.
Dropping
Okay, I was
like
hoping to get
flies.
somebody. Yeah, we're still a quorum. That's good. Brooke is basically saying he can't get back in.
Are we going to hold that or review it without him?
I think we can review it without him. We can come back and look at our comments on the video.
Now, Mr. Chair, just so you're aware that what I'm pulling up right now for 22 and 24 Easton Street is under the new business for 427, which is, if you look at HTC's agenda for tomorrow night, is near the far end, and I doubt they're going to even get to any of the new business. But Brooks is under old business for 420, and based on the agenda, we're probably going to get to it. So with time running out, I would recommend let's go to his applications, if you're okay with that.
I hear you. Does anybody have any time commitments after, do we think we have time to do both of these or?
Well, let's get started.
Yeah. Because
Okay. All right, let's do Brooks. I hear what you're saying. 38R, main dwelling. We've looked at this one before. He's made some changes.
We've actually been receiving quite a bit of outpour from the neighbors in regards to this property and the proposed water feature.
This specific property, this one,
Yes.
I know, I did see some of those comments. Okay, main dwelling, okay. Anybody want to open up? Thoughts? I'll go ahead. So not a lot here. Generally I'm generally okay with it, but my comment would be going to the south elevation. The dormer, that gable dormer facing the back, right there. I think it's just is it a dormer or is it a gable? It's kind of both. I think it should be narrower. It's too wide. I think they're looking at the plan. I think he can fold in at least from the right side in a foot or foot and a half, probably more. And the left side is just a closet there. I think he can make that gable, that dormer, narrower and possibly push the windows apart a little bit. They just feel kind of squeezed together. And then the east elevation right there at the bottom of that page, I think that's just too long. The full wing is, it feels long and the dormer accentuates that. I think that I'd like to see that broken into two separate dormers. And that was it for me.
I agree with your comments. Yeah, the dormer slash gable seems too wide in that south elevation. I would be tempted to put in a window above the one below there and then flank it with others and then pull the sides in to be 6-8 inches or a foot at the most from the window edge. But it's a lot of wall area and a high gable for the window, but then you don't want it to do what it's doing in the east elevation below it, where it's just a long row of windows and a shed dormer. So there's probably a happy medium somewhere in there.
I guess I'm sorry, you lost me a little bit on, you were talking about that gable dormer.
Yeah, to either do like a window that's above the first floor window, below the double. Yeah, another single window above that. And then, and maybe it could be flanked, but then pull in the dormer cheeks on either side of that. If it's about gaining head height in there, but it seems like a lot of wall area without fenestration or roof line.
Yeah, to the side. Okay.
And I agree about the shed dormer being long. That could get broken up some.
Yep. Good. Lucy?
No comment.
Okay. Okay, so that was it for that one, for that building. Move on to the second dwelling. And it went from gambrel to gable. And just turned the bridge the other way. We're starting to see a lot of these sliding barn doors. And it puzzles me to think of what's the appropriate surface to have behind the door. If it's not a big opening, what do you want to see behind a sliding barn door? So I assume this one is fixed open and we're just looking at a sort of a faux sliding door. But still, underneath is a board wall with some double hung windows in it. And I don't know what to say about these doors. Because I can't think of anything that really makes sense to have behind a sliding barn door except a huge opening.
Yeah, it's a trend, Mickey.
It is kind of a trend. And
Yeah, I think there's stairs on the interior behind this.
right. The only thing I could come up with as a suggestion on this one was to close the door, show it as a fake but closed door that might slide but probably doesn't, and put some lights in the door panel itself to make it look like a sliding door with, they'd be smaller windows than what's shown there, maybe 4 light or 6 light windows in the sliding door, and have them as a fixed unit. I think, granted, you probably don't normally see glass in a sliding barn door, but I think it might be overlooked if it's small and sort of barn-like scale. So I don't know. I'm not sure I'm liking the current proposal in terms of the sliding barn door.
Is that batten that's beneath those windows right next to that sliding door?
Looks like it.
Yeah,
it's vertical board.
yeah, there's too much
Yeah.
stuff going on, especially with the old storm door. I mean, which I like those old storm doors with the diamond windows.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And I think this being sort of barn-like is a good approach. I'm fine with that. And the rest of that building generally, except for one exception I'll get to later, looks pretty barn-like. It's just the sliding door thing. Angus, what are your comments on the door?
I'm with you about the barn doors reading and functioning as barn doors. I think that it starts to get a bit hokey when you get a barn door that's fixed and there are things in it. It's not really rolling. Or, a situation where it looks like it's rolled open, but instead of there being an opening, they're double hung windows. I don't know what role the vertical boarding has below those windows, except that it relates to the rolling doors, but it's not the wall and it's not the opening, you know what I mean? I just today I was presenting a barn-like structure for Codfish Park, and I think the success of something looking like a barn is its simplicity, of being a very simple gable structure or a gambrel, but all the additive massing and the regular windows and all those are cues for a house. So then you have this confusion of, is it a house or a barn? And I think that gets a little sticky. So I guess decide which way you're going and do one or the other. If they're barn doors, I would just have the opening behind it. If it's going to be, if the hanging mechanism is going to go out over those windows, it doesn't, like, you wouldn't cover the windows over with the doors. So I would do one or the other, either have the windows or have the doors, but I think it gets tricky.
What do you think? Do you think it could work to put, just as I kind of suggested, slide the door shut and put, you know, a simple 6 light, maybe one big one or a couple small ones in the door itself to bring
See
light
that?
in.
I think you're right in saying that that's more typical of a swinging door, that you have, you know, 2 high and 3 or 4 or even 5 wide. But you know, those would be in a swinging door, and you don't see it that often in a rolling door.
You don't, and I completely agree. I'm just trying to think of some way to get penetration in the door, the sliding door. I mean, and kind of a little bit of a compromise on integrity, but I'd have to see it to really believe it.
Sometimes I've seen if you just took like the upper part of the sash next to the doors or the rolling door, and you did a window on either side, and then the you know, 2 doors that go open to either side, and the window is aligned in the door, so that when the door opens across the window, that you have the light going through the door and through the window. But again, that gets, you know, almost a little,
Putting glass in a sliding door.
yeah.
Aren't you still putting glass in a sliding door when you do that?
And am I reading this as plank frame? Because like that sticks out from the wall, and how much is the door sticking out from the wall that it's going to clear the plank frame windows?
Yeah, just enough. And I also agree totally with what you're saying about buildings that are trying to look like barns, but really start to look a lot like houses, because it's a lot to do with the fenestration, the complexity. These are residential windows. And, you know, I don't think there's much of a way around it. I guess there's the notion of repurposing a barn to a house, and you've got to put these windows in it. But it's, the other thing I was going to comment on is the south elevation, is those, that gable, the upper 2 small windows, the number 2 windows in the gable. I think they add too much to that side. I think the north is semi-successful because it's, the north kind of works because of a single window, but I think I'd rather see the south simplified and get rid of those 2 smaller ones.
I was going to say that in barns, you know, it's pretty rare to have, I don't know. I kind of think that they're usually just, you know, a sash you found here and a sash you found there. And, you know, there are a number of buildings over time that get adapted, started out as a barn, turn into a house. But once there's a certain amount of uniformity and especially I think double hungs versus the you know, an awning or a casement or something, that's more leaning towards house than barn. But I mean, with all the fields in that area, I think it's an inspired idea to try to bring the idea of a barn in there. But I think there are things that could make this more barn-like.
Yeah.
Holly, I just sent you a photograph of my barn. I think that barns, there's too much fenestration for this barn or whatever. Barns don't have a lot of windows.
Nice.
That's my barn. But you see how that, I mean, to get the barn feel, you could do those batten shutters, whatever. Behind those barn doors are large, small panes, but I mean, that reads as a barn. Mickey and Ben did that.
Yeah, it has the sliding doors, but they're usually shut, at least when you're not around, I'm sure. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's not. I'd almost prefer to see French doors behind a sliding door, I think, than windows. So.
But let's not forget a barn. When you say barn, you're thinking of utility. And I think that you have to remember that to me that these sliding doors are inappropriately placed.
It's kind of confusing. It's sort of like what Lisa was doing on the Wall Street house. It's just.
Yeah.
You just don't really get what the purpose is. So,
Well,
I think that's
in a
lot of-
place, with weather as bad as Nantucket and hurricanes and so forth, if there's a big expansive French door, I kind of love the idea of being able to pull, protective big plank doors over. I think that's great. But yeah, I think it's got a little ways to go to read more as a barn or less as a house.
All right, I'm gonna leave it at that. I've kind of got comments that reflect that, and I'm just gonna encourage Brooke to look at the comments. Of course, the HDC will do their thing anyway. So we got the shed. Anybody have any problem with the shed?
It's
Didn't we
reduced
say-
in height.
12.8. So it's fine to me.
Yeah, those are actually sliding doors with a big opening behind them. I mean, makes more sense.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I still think
right,
the
I don't
gutter
think
could
we'll-
come down to the window height. I mean, I think about the cottages out in Sconset being 14 feet high and this being 12.8.
The shed. All right. Okay, so we're moving on to the water feature. I'm just prepared to say that this may meet the zoning regulations, but it's still a pool. It shouldn't be permitted unless it's really greatly reduced in size. I don't know what else to say about this one.
I agree with you, Mickey.
It's a swimming pool.
And like I said, that we have received lots of comments on this one here lately, so.
I'll bet you do.
It's almost said to the point that if you go into a backyard in 15 years and someone has a 9 by 15 foot water feature, you're going to go, oh, 2021. Yeah.
It's a swimming pool.
God, we've seen so many pool applications this year. It's crazy.
Yeah, we have 1,000 now. Remember when there were 2?
Right. And you wondered why they did that.
I know. Who needs a pool? Okay, so I think we're done with Brooke. Down to 22, 24 Easton.
Yeah, what happened to a water feature being a koi pond,
Right. A little fountain. So have you guys looked at this drawing carefully?
I haven't. Can I
Which
make one
one?
comment right from the start, Mickey?
Yeah, go ahead.
Looking at this and the 2 garages and everything, there was, and I know hardscaping hasn't been applied for, but there was no plot plan, and I couldn't figure out like where the driveway was, how the buildings were going to relate to the driveway, and plus the pool.
I guess,
I'm not looking at anything.
yeah. Kind of
It's
one.
their workshop APDs PDFs are got a lot of information on them. Sorry.
Right. I'm going to start out with a general comment about not so much the buildings, but the siting. I guess, have you seen this ahead of time?
I thought I took a look, but honestly, till it reloads, it's not going to come back to me.
Okay, so the siding shows two, very symmetrical look to the front of the property with 2 small garages. And you look between them. I assume the driveway, even though it's not shown on the plan, runs between the 2 garages. And you're facing the gym. Not that, you don't see the house, you don't see the house at all from the street. So you're looking down the driveway and you see the gym wall with a few windows in it, which to me seems like just the wrong start to the project. You don't. So I'll read what I have written down here for the citing. This proposal makes no attempt to have a presence facing Easton Street. Scroll down to the citing. The main house is hidden behind a gymnasium and 2 garages. It's not uncommon for these waterfront properties to have outbuildings closer to the street, but in almost every other case, the main house's front facade and front entrance are visible from the street. There isn't a residential feel to the property with this layout. The siding should be reworked to allow some visibility of the main house and entrance. So I assume the driveway runs right down the middle between the garages.
We don't know. I
So
mean,
the
that could
house-
all be gravelled for all we know, the whole area.
Well, you're right. It could be because they haven't shown anything. But I'm going to assume they're going to come back and ask for driveway there, or shell or gravel or something. But there's no front door. I mean, you really, you don't even see. All you see of the house is behind the garage. You see this wing, one of the wings, coming towards you. So I kind of broken my comments down into starting with this citing. I think it's an important place to start here, because it kind of, you can't really get into the main house until you've dealt with the approach to it. And I think it's really missing on the approach. Oh, there's Brooke back. Brooke is back. Brooke, can you hear us?
Yeah, oh yeah. Can you hear me?
Good. Yeah.
Great. That's just so annoying. I can't even tell you.
Good to
You know,
have
my
you back.
landline doesn't work, but whatever.
Yeah. You got to fix that one.
You think?
Yeah. All right. So here's the view facing Easton Street, even though you can't see this because it's hidden behind the gym. So it's sort of invisible. So Holly, go to one of the side views, the east side. Say. The sides, I think, are going to be very visible considering the neighbors. So yeah, that actually places the 3 buildings together, which is interesting. So this is what you see from the side of the building, and to me, it's tall, unattractive, or uninteresting, I'll say, and monotonous, and 2 connected structures that don't really look like an appealing residential house. To me, it looks like dormitories. And the other side is almost identical.
Yeah, I didn't look at this one. I'm looking now.
That's the waterfront.
Yeah, it looks more commercial, doesn't it?
It looks like a hotel or dormitories or something. It's just doesn't have a neighborly residential feel to it. It's these big walls of glass and shingles, on either side of the property.
Well, even look at the
Creating-
language, foyer, vestibule, foyer, it's,
Yeah.
Lobby.
Lobby.
What? So, I mean, waterfront houses have this awkward relationship to the street. So I understand that we look at the backside, as it were, of this from the street, and that the real front is what faces the water. So I can understand that.
I agree with you a little bit there, because I think that it often, I've seen that and I've heard that many times, but to me, I still feel that facing the street, there should be a front facade that has a little bit of presence in terms of approach and presence addressing Easton Street.
yeah, and if you walk
I'm sorry,
along,
go ahead.
if you walk along the Holbert Avenue, the beach there, it's the presence of the houses along the beach is the lower key. I mean, it's they've got their porch or whatever, but the main entrances is very much on Holbert Avenue.
What about the old gambrel up there? Or not gambrel, but mansard roof one.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's
that's-
going to be worked over.
You will.
But I mean, there isn't really a front door. I mean, there is a back door, but it's like my main issue with this are these east and west elevations that are large in scale and small in detail, and they you know, it doesn't need to be intricate. This is a lot of bumping up and bumping down, but what you're basically seeing is a shed dormer from front to back that's just broken somewhat irregularly along the way, but there isn't a strong definition of a hierarchy or an original part of the structure. And all the fenestration reads as fairly modern. It doesn't feel like the context that surrounds at Brant Point. So I would try to have more rhythm in the massing and variation in the fenestration. And yeah, I'm not so, I think there's an opportunity in the program that they're creating with the approach to it, but the sides and the back don't feel like Brant Point.
Are you allowed to have pools there?
I think so. Let me read what I've got so far. And I think you've added a couple things. I like your variation in the fenestration and the rhythm and the massing. I think those are good comments that they'll add. And you might want me to tone this one down a little bit. So I've got the central main mast should be considerably taller and more dominant. Look at, so down at the bottom there, you'll see you can see with the main mast is actually lower. So I got the central main mast should be considerably taller and more dominant than the side additions. In this case, it's actually lower. The massing does not have proper hierarchy. The wings are too uniform and wide and uninteresting. The overall appearance, especially from the sides, is of a couple of connected two-story dormitories. There is no appealing architectural style to this building. This location deserves a more creative approach. And I just added the finer details such as windows, doors, and the chimneys should not be addressed until the massing has been improved. So I'll tone that down a little if you'd like me to, but I think this property does deserve something more interesting than this.
I think that those two garages, they give me the gatehouse feel. I mean, I would prefer that, with a size property like this, that they have the gym maybe on one side of the driveway and the double garage or something on the other side, so that you're not looking through and then looking into the gym and seeing a metal staircase or whatever that is in there. And then with your comments about the architectural style, I totally agree with. But if you feel like to me, it feels like you're going to go into the service entrance.
You don't even see where the entrance is.
Well, yeah, that's the whole driveway. That's another issue.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Chair, I'd hate to stop everybody's conversation, but I actually need to get going. I gotta pick up my kids. Sorry.
Okay.
We're good, Holly. We'll just keep going.
Aren't you homeschooled?
Can we do that?
No, unfortunately, it would nothing. I wouldn't have a problem. I'm at work right now, but the airport's doing their disaster training, so my husband actually has to work that, and I get to pick up the kids. So, sorry.
But we can,
Maybe,
I could,
first of all, can we continue, can we continue without you? Or if not, can we do this next meeting?
let me see what I can do. Let me see. Yes, I can make you a host, Mickey. Or whoever wants to be a host. You would just have to stop recording at the bottom. Once you get that permission, you'll be able to stop recording. I'm pretty
All
sure.
right.
And yes, that these remaining ones can be on the again, that these won't be heard next week. It'll probably be 2 weeks from now. So actually having them on next week, or, what I'm getting at is that these were came in for the 27th meeting, and that's at like the end of this long agenda. So these won't be heard for a while.
so you can
They
put
don't-
them on the agenda for next week.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll let Kadeem know tomorrow that we didn't get to all of them, and we can put all 4 of these back on if you wish. Definitely not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, oh, I see. I got stop video now. Oh no, that's my screen. Are you giving me something?
Yeah, I'm gonna make you co-host. Actually, I'm gonna make you host. Hold on. More. Make host. Yes. All right, now you are host. Do you see on the bottom of your
All right.
screen where it says share screen, and then to the right it says record?
Pause. Yep, I got that one. Yep.
So you just stop that. Okay.
All right. I'll do that. when
Thanks,
we're done.
guys.
All right. Thank you, Holly.
Sorry.
Hi.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks, Holly.
Do you guys have this up on your own personal screens so I don't have to screen share?
I do.
I do.
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay.
Are we still looking at the house?
We're still looking at the main house. Yeah.
And can I comment at this point, or am I?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to ask you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what's been said. I think that it's an opportunity to do some kind of slightly more stylized and creative building down there. I don't mind the rambling nature of the architecture. I think that's kind of fun. But I think that I agree with Angus about there needing to be a little bit more of a hierarchy to the structures. And even though you can't really see the front door, I think, I think it would be nice to actually have a front door on this that reads as a front door. But yes, in terms of the bigger themes, I would go with Angus on this one.
Mhm. Yeah. Variation and fenestration. Okay. Have we covered that?
Well, and
Uh,
if there were some sort of even if they're not even really using it, a door between those garages at the gym that is like a direction to here rather than just like
the wall.
The backside.
Yeah.
I actually had that similar comment on the gym application, which we're gonna
Yeah.
get to, that, three
Yeah,
windows.
I don't like that it's a
Door.
block.
Door. Yeah. And I think Lucy's right. It's starting to feel like a sort of a gatehouse, keep out structures.
Yeah, and then you look at it from the harbor side. And, they've got the screened in porch and the sunken fire pit and everything. It's kind of like, okay, they're trying to get the beach house, and then they got the big, huge wings on the back. I mean, I don't know if one is for their employees and the other is for family, but it's, it's just, there's no sort of cohesiveness of the whole thing.
Well, I understand the idea of creating a courtyard that gives them privacy because they do have neighbors on either side and the water in the back and the road on the front, or however you want to look at it. So I understand sort of a wraparound effect, but I think there's a lot more there's a lot more interesting way of doing that. And I wish they would take their cue from one of the more interesting houses on Brant Point. There are quite a few that they could, build on.
Yeah, that courtyard thing, that's a personal, I mean, it's like what they want for themselves. And I agree, it's sort of like Matt saying that we'd like balconies on our second floor residences. But I just don't feel it fits into the surroundings, into the neighborhood. I think that creates a isolation that, it's not the flavor of Brant Point. So.
Well, there's no sort of sense of entrance from the street, even into getting around the gym.
Have we moved
No.
on to the gym?
No.
Let's move on to the gym. And I'll tell you what I got there too. I just said it's pretty simple. Because it's the only building other than the garages that is visible from the street, there should be a visible front entrance to at least make this appear to be a guest house. And then the small four-light windows are too small and only add to the feel of the north wall being underpenetrated.
Yeah, it feels like there should be some kind of porch or entry in that middle part facing the street.
Of course, I feel like they should rearrange all these buildings completely anyway. But if they're going to leave it with orientation, they've got to make it look appealing.
I was kind of thinking that too, Mickey. Like if you look at like 46 Easton Street, for instance, which is the mansard that you're talking about, or I think you were talking about next to the breakers, which is just the most god awful example of whatever down there. But right next to that, you've got that, you've got like a little cottage that's sort of offset. And I think that it's almost too symmetrical. It's almost too formal with these buildings set up the way they are. I mean, not that it's wrong, but it's definitely, I don't think it does speak very well to the context. So I think if there was some asymmetry in the way the buildings were laid out, I mean, obviously they want to try and hide the pool. I think that's a big part of what's going on here.
Yep.
So.
Well, if you look at the Easton Street side of the gym, they've got those 3 windows, and right behind the windows is a circular staircase, which I don't know what material that is, but so if this is lit up and you look down the driveway, that's what you're seeing in the windows.
Mm-hmm.
Versus
Yeah,
what should be a front door or something.
It totally loses the I don't know, the warmer residential feel of the neighborhood. It's just totally ignoring it.
Yeah, this feels more like the white elephant when you go alongside the white elephant, not out on front, but along the side of it. It just feels, it's monotonous. It's just, there isn't enough variation.
Yeah.
All right.
The garages, I didn't have much to say about, other than their siding. Actually, I said they could have more character.
Are they both exactly the same? I mean, they could have been done on the same application.
Yeah, I know. Well, they can't, but yeah, they look the same.
This is just such an extraordinary opportunity here. I'd like to see something else.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go back and reiterate what I said before, is that I think that they could have done the gym on one side of the driveway and the garage, one garage structure on the other side.
Yeah. That would be an improvement. I mean, it's too symmetrical.
Yeah, there's could be some sort of creative landscaping, courtyard, stonework, something to disguise the pool.
So
There
when
must
you
be
write this up,
somewhat of a-
Mr. Rowland, I think that, may I suggest that we just focus on the big theme here, which is something that we all seem to agree on, is that, and Angus put it much better than I will. But basically that it's an opportunity to do something that works down there, and this doesn't meet that standard. What did you say, Angus? It was better than what I said.
Oh, well, I mean, it's such a high profile spot. There's just this is a real opportunity to bring back the character of the neighborhood. And it's also an opportunity to change the character of the neighborhood if it's not an appropriate, or if it doesn't fit in with the vernacular. And there isn't a lot down there that looks like this.
And this is a big, big property for down there. I mean, this structure is going to be massive.
Well, I think that's
It is.
why it has such a big impact, as its visibility and scale.
All right, you've heard most of my comments, and I'm going to add some more to them. Does anybody have any comments about the garages?
So are these rolling doors facing the street?
Yes.
I mean, what's up with that? They're garage doors that are in the gable ends. So what's
Yeah,
what's the
small.
rolling door about that faces a
Hmm.
hedge or a fence?
I don't know. Rolling doors, sliding rolling doors.
It looks like they've got rolling doors that are opposite each other, facing the street and facing the house.
You're right.
I can't tell. Are the doors facing the street, or are they on both sides?
I think it's on both sides, north and south.
All right, so if you open them, you can see through.
Yeah, it doesn't say what's behind the doors.
Probably just an opening. It's just a shed. Right.
Yeah, the plan just shows an opening, a clear opening. Which I think has some utility. I mean, if,
I didn't mind the rolling doors personally.
Yeah.
Um,
you're never going to see both sides at once.
Right.
Unless you're a quantum particle.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of them.
I mean, if we're talking about in general with the whole proposal, these are my favorite buildings. I like the little windows and the simplicity of the shapes, and they're more, in context. But yeah.
Mhm. The rest is the problem.
Let me see what the. I'm not in favor of two big black rolling doors right on the street.
Black.
Black.
Is that what all the trim is?
It says it's the trim Quaker gray, sash black, doors black.
Oof.
Those are two big black holes on the street.
Yeah, that's bad. Thank you, Lucy. didn't see that.
And frankly, I have a problem with those barn doors being painted black. I mean, to me, they should all be natural to weather.
Yeah, I
Or
agree.
dark green.
Mhm.
Pardon, Brooke?
Or dark green. I mean, that's a shingle style color if ever there was one.
Yeah, dark green. Okay, I'll give you that.
Better than
I'll
black.
have to go back and look at your applications again.
All right.
HSAB gone wild.
Yeah, that's what happens when we're not chaperoned.
I think are we done with this one?
Yeah, because it's coming back.
That's over for me.
Hey, Brooke, you
Yeah,
missed yours.
it's all right.
Go back and look at it. That's all right. We had a discussion about those doors on your building, your second dwelling.
Yeah,
And you want to just look at the video, I don't think we came to much conclusion, but just look at our comments on the video.
yeah, no problem. It's not a hard sell with that one.
Yeah. We were basically thinking there's this problem with a lot of sliding barn doors with unusual things behind them. Like,
Yeah.
what do you expect behind a garage, a sliding barn door? You usually expect nothing. And then to see windows, fixed I don't know.
Yeah.
So you'll hear.
Well, at least I wasn't trying to conceal them. And I think the point there was that it was just an infill where a garage door might have been. So that was the idea. But I don't mind like just putting that as a window in the middle, and maybe just lose the garage door. It's not a big. I don't think it's that important.
Well, I like the notion of trying to make this building look, or at one time have looked like a barn.
Hmm.
And granted, the windows make it pretty residential. So I kind of like the notion of the sliding barn door. It just seems to be something a little bit more authentic about it than having some windows where it used to be.
Well, I could have them just a swinging barn door, but I don't know. It's I'll think about that. I'm not averse to a change there. That's for sure.
I have to
Look at
go.
our video. We have conversation.
Okay.
I'll take a look.
Yeah. All right. I think we're all ready to go.
All right.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Yes.
moved.
Second,
Lucy, seconded.
What about a motion to approve the comments?
The motion to approve the comments.
yes,
Second.
Lucy made it, seconded by Angus. All those in favor?
aye.
Lucy,
Aye.
Angus, Brooke, I'm in favor. Adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Lucy?
Aye.
Angus, Brooke,
Aye.
and I'm in favor.
Thanks,
All right, guys.
Mickey. Thanks, Lacey.
Thank you.
Good to
Thanks,
see you,
Aye.
Brooke, for a short time.
It had to be done. Drove all the way out there just so I could come back and be with you.
Oh,
Aw.
Well,
see you guys.